So again, we're going to be talking today mostly about user training within Issuetrak. So let's take a look. Who are your users? Our users are pretty much our customers. They are you. Everybody who's attending this webinar today is a customer of ours in one form or another. Either you are a direct customer of ours or you are a user where you're using the software. So this is kind of everybody. And with Issuetrak, it's not related to one area. It's related to a lot of different areas. For example, you may be using Issuetrak for IT help desk. You may be working as a customer service rep. You may be for service desk or even information related to financial institutions. So you get all these different types of uses in here. You may need to report things that need attention, such as facility issues. You may want to log complaints or work on human resources requests. So we'll be used for that. Also, things like service requests, installs, removals, repair requests, things like that. Well, the thing is, no matter what, you've got some basic things that you can do within Issuetrak that are very common, even considered the different usage that you are. So we're going to look kind of beyond that. Oops, went the wrong way. So who are they? Our customers or our colleagues? They can be our customers. They can be members of the community. We don't know. They're anyone who needs our help or services. So it's not only the users that are in the site, it's other people that may be involved that we may not even know. So in Issuetrak, when you are a user, you have a user account. And now that account may or may not be able to log into Issuetrak, but it's still an account in Issuetrak. So you have to have a profile that's set up within Issuetrak. It has different information. Now, for the most part, every user in Issuetrak is either going to be an agent user or a standard user. And today we're mostly talking about standard users because we already covered agent users last time. So here's our focus for today. What can users do? For the most part, they submit issues. The majority of everybody that we deal with Issuetrak is someone who can submit an issue. That's the majority of the users in Issuetrak. For the most part, a lot of our people are servicing other people's requests. So a particular user, considerably, if they're an agent user, can go ahead and service on any number of users. We have some people that are in one country and they're servicing users in 2 or 3 other countries. They may be in their local community. They may know their users and they may not. The idea is for them to be able to submit a request to you to handle. Now, in some cases, they can also resolve or help resolving issues. There's some situations where our end users or our basic users have the ability to respond to tasks, for example. In our task functionality, then we can assign something for someone to do. They don't have to be an agent user to receive that task. They can receive an email from Issuetrak, and when they receive that email, they'll go ahead and allow them to access the issue and resolve the issue. Now, it still has to be closed in some cases by the agents because they're the ones overseeing the issue, but the user still can have direct access to the issue and be able to actually work that issue. In some cases, those users are managers. A manager can also go in and review information within Issuetrak. They can see things within Issuetrak. And as the last item says is they can even make decisions based on the data that they may see within Issuetrak, especially when they're accessing things from the dashboard, for example. And I'll go back and show you those kind of views in a little bit when we start going through some of the things and some of the views that different users have with different types of rights within the site. So, I keep hitting the wrong way today. So the user record, when you log in Issuetrak as a user, there's certain information that you actually are being put into an issue without you having to do anything. So for example, if you submit an issue, and that's pretty much all the rights you have, we're still associating you with an organization or a company. You may also have a location information that's associated, and even the department may be a part of your record, and all of that information is filled into the issue record without you having to do anything more than just logging into the site. There's other pieces of information within your data profile within Issuetrak that can also be reportable to management. So we may have other information that is being seen. But for the most part, the biggest pieces are the organizational membership, the departmental membership, or the location information. Now, in some cases, department location, it's being controlled by the system. We don't have those in some sites, and some sites we do. But then the other thing is the permissions that you hold. So organization department is mostly controlling things that you can access, but the permissions you hold control what you see. And as we go again into the examples a little bit later in this webinar, you're going to be able to see some of the differences according to the permissions, how it controls what you see in the site and what you don't see in the site, so that you can get that. So here we go again. So now, how can users submit issues? Well, I'm going to start with the first two, and let's say you can send snail mail. So essentially, you can send something by mail, go out physically to the mailbox, put a letter in, send it off to a service desk. They open up that letter. They'll go ahead and enter an issue and may contact you by phone or even return mail in order to respond. You may have an email address that you send to a personal or group mailbox. And that email essentially is opened up in the electronic form, of course, and then that information is transferred into an Issuetrak issue and created for you. So in that case, you have a way of using mail or email in order to submit that issue. You may pick up the phone and call a service desk, the IT help desk, service desk, customer service line, whatever it happens to be. And again, you're recording something essentially by picking the phone call up, giving the information to the person on the other end who is entering the issue for you. And in many cases, they're entering it on your behalf, or they're just entering the issue so they can record it as a logged item. Either way, you're not the one actually physically doing anything. You're putting it in. Now, another method is to send an email that is automatically monitored by Issuetrak. Now, let's see if I can get this right now. Tab. Nope. And let's see if here. I'm going to minimize this down. I'm going to bring Issuetrak up. And so in this particular case, this is the CS training site that I have set up here. And I am going to log in as a user that previously submitted an issue. So I have an accountant user that I'm going to log in under. And when I log in as this accountant user, one of the issues you'll see is one that was created by email. So in this particular case, we sent email into a designated mailbox. Our Issuetrak program then went ahead and read the information from the email and then created an issue based off of that. It also can create a user if the mailbox is set up that for. So even people who don't have direct access into Issuetrak, they just send an email to a mailbox, and all they're recognizing is an email being sent in and an email being responded to. Because as notes are added to these particular issues, for example, this one by this agent, then this particular agent says, I'll bring a loaner ASAP. Well, they'll bring a loaner down there, and then they'll go ahead because this particular request was said, my computer has now failed and I need a loaner and a replacement. Please see the attached photo. Well, let's see. Since an attachment was sent in by the email, we can go ahead and take a look at it. And I don't know how well you can see this, but this is a pretty well melted down computer. So what happened in this particular case is a fire or some sort of electrical issue occurred. The computer completely melted. So the person who responded back here said that they would go ahead. They said, I'll be bringing a loaner fast. And the person who submitted the issue said they had an electrical fire. The coffee cup holder spilled the coffee. I'm showing my age a little bit because many, many moons ago, the computer, when we had CD-ROMs and computers, many people called those a coffee cup holder. So I'm showing a little bit of age on this, but something like this could occur. Anyway, that's as simple as it gets. You're sending an email in, and you're creating an issue that way. Now, I'm actually going to log back out, and I'm going to show you the other method that a lot of people use, and I'm going to show you the simple method here. So I'm going to, again, try another user. And for some reason, my mouse and all doesn't want to work today. There we go. And we're going to log in. Nope, not him. So I got the wrong one even after I got it in here. So here, my user A, wherever he is, I got lost again. A, B, accountant, there he is. Actually, I don't want A, I want D. See if I can find user D, because I don't remember the password again. Thank God for password managers. Anyway, user C, user D. So, user D, he went ahead and logged in, and first thing you're going to notice is he doesn't have a lot of capability. When he logged directly in, he went directly to the submit page as being his home page. So in this particular case, you can see because locations are turned on, he can switch the location, and it is limited, so you can see some of the locations that he can see. In this particular case, there's only one, because some users have more than one location, some don't. He puts in a subject in here, and then he can add in additional data here. Now, one thing to pay attention with this is the rich text editor. Not everyone has this turned on. So this is an optional item. Most of the time, a lot of times what you're going to see here is just going to be a text box that they're allowed to text into. Up here at the top, you'll have some abilities with the rich text editor, though, to change things like make things bold, make them italicized if you don't like bold and italicized, underline them. So a standard text editor. You can even do things like inserting tables in case people need to do that. So that's one of the things that can be done there, is you can insert tables. You can change the background colors. You can change the colors in here. Now, over the years, I've had people say they like that part and they don't. There's different situations that occur because some people like to use a lot of colors and a lot of boldings in order to bring emphasis upon their issues. So some customers like that, some don't, but the capability is there. Also, another couple of capabilities that you have here is being able to insert an image file. You can click here and allow you to go and find a source file, say on your local machine, and then you can add a description and control the width and the height of the image file and insert into the note or the description. You can also use a hyperlink, so you can go in and put in a hyperlink in here, and you can even make it up next a new window instead of open it up as an existing window. So you can do those things also. Once you go ahead and put in whatever information you want, then down here at the bottom, you're going to go ahead and be able to, of course, categorize this. So this is going to be an inquiry, for example. Now, I'm using multiple custom screens in this particular site. So for each issue type, I have essentially a custom screen built. So what happens is it redraws that particular page as soon as I select the issue type. And then if the issue type has a particular subtype, of course, they can be selected too. Now, there's two methods of doing attachments. So I'm going to submit this issue, and if I just went ahead first off and hit check attachments and I hit submit issue, then it gives me the ability to go ahead and choose a file. So essentially I'm going into my file, my directory on my particular computer, and I find a file I want to upload. And I can upload 3 at one time. Now, if I just go back and hit save here, and I'm going to go back to the original issue 1313 that was created, then I can also go ahead and do this. I can just go ahead and click the paperclip and then drag drop files from my file system and add those as attachments. The nice thing about this is you're not limited to 3 files. You can put as many files on here as you wish at any one time. Those files then will become part of the issue record. Then they can be viewed by other users who have access to this particular issue. It becomes a permanent part of that record. So, other things this user can do. Remember, this is a very basic user. As I said, they can add attachments and they can add notes. And when they go in and click on Add Note, they get that capability to go ahead and then add a comment. Pay attention because some of you have different types of rights that you're using within Issuetrak. And here you'll notice that this person can pretty much only add a note. Nothing else is available to be edited except adding a note. So you just add note, and of course you hit update and you're done. Then he goes back to issue view. So in this particular case, this user's really locked down. Pretty much I want him to submit and respond, submit and respond. Notice there is no close option here. Normally you would see it on the left menu or you would see the button close. Both of those have been restricted for this particular user. Now the clone copy option may or may not show up because that is a configurable item within the system administrators. They may turn that capability on or turn it off. If it is turned on, then the user can go ahead and copy this issue into another issue. I have had complaints about that, so you always want to be careful to make sure that you may be changing some information because it looks just like the issue that you just created. So because it's trying to help you out by copying this over, make sure that you modify or change it because usually it's going to be something different about the copied issue. So another method that I want to show you, and I'm going to show you this one because it's fairly new to Issuetrak. It is an additional capability with Issuetrak that you may run into in the future if you haven't run into it already. And that is having the ability for you to actually submit it by web form. So web form's a little different because I don't have to log in order to do that. I fill in basic information about that particular issue, and it submits the issue for me through the web form. We do that usually with an API call, and then this creates an issue just like using the incoming email module. The biggest difference in this is that, of course, is you don't have to log into Issuetrak in order to use the form. You can go ahead and log in. These forms can be customized according to your individual use, so you can build these out and have these. If these are something that you're interested in, please contact your sales associate and they can give you more information related to the use of the web forms. But it is another method that can be used that's kind of outside the standard product of Issuetrak. Now, let's go ahead and go back to my old presentation here and let's see where we are. All right. So we've talked about users being able to submit. We've talked about web forms. We've talked about being able to submit here. And let me put this as the presentation so you can see it a little better. So here you've got using a web form. We've logged in and submitted an issue. We've sent one in by incoming email. We pretended we did a service desk and done all those. So we're so far so good. Now, when we come back here, what happens after the fact? So users can do things. So as you saw a minute ago, the users' access is controlled by permissions. What permissions they have is going to control their access to some of these items here. For example, the user that we just logged into, he didn't have reports. He didn't have the My Issues page. He didn't have access to the dashboard. He was not going to be assigned a task, or he's not going to have access through email. So these are all the ways that users can view issues depending upon their user permissions. So in order to show you some of the differences, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and use a couple of our users that have some different levels of access. And I logged in as user D already. So that one you've kind of seen. Kind of locked down, kind of not a lot there. So let's go back to my site and let's take a look at user C. Now user C here, see if I can get that person in my list. There's user C, and we're going to sign in. So what can user C do? Now, so there's D, here's C. Now we're going to get access to the knowledge base because we have extra menus. We're going to be able to search and submit issues. In the issue maintenance, we're going to be add notes to closed issues, select priorities. We're going to be add and edit reports. So we have more additional capabilities. So now this user, when they logged in, instead of going to the submit page, they went to the My Issues view. The My Issues view is the view of the issues that you're directly related, you're directly involved with. For example, in this particular case, the issues are the submitted issues. The person who submitted these issues or entered the issues, they'll see them here. This user also has access to an optional item called a global issues. So the idea behind this is if they happen to have the same problem, because this is a global issue, they can easily submit another request by clicking Submit Issue, and then they're putting a quick request in for the same problem. Also on the left-hand side menu, you now see that not only can they submit an issue, but they can also search an issue. So they have capabilities now to search issue information and use the search page in order to do things within Issuetrak. They can also access the knowledge base on the left. So you can go in and access knowledge base. You can go in and take a look at information that you're allowed to see in the knowledge base. And these articles can be created and categorized so that you could be restricted access to them. Now, so let's go to Submit Page. Submit Page looks pretty much the same. The biggest difference is in this particular case, we're giving the user the ability to go ahead and add a priority. So let's go ahead and submit a quick issue. And I'll just put test in here for right now and select something. So we'll do facilities. Again, you're noticing here the subtypes. There's no subtypes in here. Let's say we'll do a building, whatever you want. It happens to be for the common space. And again, there's attached and hit submit. Options on the left have not changed except on the left-hand side. They still have pretty much the same options. It's still in the search and the submit where they're getting the different capabilities. So let's log out again. And here, we're going to go to user B. Now, user B has a lot more permissions. They get pretty much everything: calendar, dashboard, knowledge base, the My Issues, projects, reports, search, and submit. They get they can access and maintain projects. They can actually update users and users in their organization. Another thing that they can actually do in here is they get the capability also of going in here and having more rights to do other things, such as adding content and private notes. They can see assigned to information. Now, the big one for them is can view issues submitted by others. This gives them a bigger view than only their own issues. That's a very big permission in here. They can work with the workflow, so they have the ability to add and work with tasks. So it goes back up in here again. And so you can see all the different permissions that are here. They can add notes to closed issues. They can edit the issues. They can select the priority, severity, subset. Then they can work with reports. So it gives them that ability to do more within Issuetrak. So let's go back down here, and then we'll come back in and log in as user B. So here in user B, we sign in. And again, you're going to notice more and more menu options that are being granted on the left-hand side. And here, more tabs are now being available because of the workflow component that this user has. They have the ability to actually submit an issue. Their submission page, when they go in and submit the issue, again, you're seeing it grow. More information can be granted. Subject, description, they now have the ability to see a class and a severity because they have more ability to work with the issue. Again, we'll go ahead and test the issue. Test 3, test 3, and then in here we'll put a test. So we'll say this is an inquiry again, and we'll come back to the inquiry and again select an employment, and then come down and hit the submit. When we add note here, you now see that not only is the note component available at the top, but you also now are opened up to edit other fields. This is because you now have additional rights to edit issues, which again is a user permission. So you can go ahead then and make modifications and changes to some of the fields in here, as well as add a note to an issue. Couple of other things to notice on the left-hand side. You still have the view, the add note, the attachment, and now there's the edit capability. Edit view and this add note view is pretty much the same. But now you can create a knowledge-based article, so you can take an issue that already exists and move it into a knowledge-based article. Now, this would probably be a pretty high-ranking user in the site, maybe a manager or a supervisor. You would want to kind of have those type of rights so they may be able to move an item over. So you can do that without having to be an agent. You can do it as an end user, provided you have the right set of rights. You can even create a calendar event. Now, a calendar event means that I'm going to push this issue over as a calendar event, and it'll be able to show on a common calendar that other users with the permission to view the calendar can see. Now, in this particular case, I'm just going to do an update here. You'll see the calendar here on the left. So if I've created an event, the event would show here on the calendar. And this user could even be set, could have different views of these items. They can have a month view, they can have a week view, and a day view. It just depends on the items that they want to see. There's also, this user's been given the ability to see our project functionality. Now, this is an optional field, an optional feature of Issuetrak, just like the calendar is. They are not turned on all instances of Issuetrak. So if you don't see them, it's probably because your administrators have decided not to use that particular feature. But in this case, because I have the ability to see the projects and I can manage projects, I can go in and add projects. I can see all the issues related to the projects, and I can even see the project categories and the substatuses in here. So it gives me a lot of rights to work. So again, this would be a fairly highly functioning user in Issuetrak. If I go back to the My Issuetrak site, not only I'm seeing most all of the issues that I'm directly involved with. In addition to that, we've also allowed this user to see the dashboard functionality. So they pick dashboard, and they can see issues submitted by others. So in that case, they can see a wide range of issues, not only just the ones that they're directly involved with, but again, some that are assigned to other users. So they're giving a wide range of view, allowing them to get a good piece of information from Issuetrak, whether they're directly involved with the issues or not. Another thing this particular user has is the ability to manage users. One of the things that you can go in and do is you can grant an end user the ability to manage users within their organization. So what it does, it gives me the ability to go ahead and either add or to edit an existing user. So I can go in and make modifications and changes to the user record because I'm being granted that capability. I can even add them to groups that belong to my organization, but only groups that belong to my organization. So they can't grant rights that they're not allowed to grant, because all rights are being granted by group membership here, not through individual permissions. So again, a lot of capability to work with the user permissions, even being able to change a password. So that allows the agents to designate other users to go ahead and do some of the day-to-day grind work of keeping up with user profiles within Issuetrak. So now let's move back over here and we'll take a look at user A. Now user A is very similar to user B. Again, granting most all of the rights. They have the ability to work with projects. They also have the data access. They have a big permission here called Allow Read-Only Access to Administration Information. I'm going to show you that one in a minute, because what it is allowing you both access to both the home menu and the administration menu, but not giving you capabilities to do any updates. Again, high number of permissions and everything that's in here. So logging out again as user A. And we're going to go back in here, get out of user B, go in as user A, which I had logged in once before, and sign in here. First thing you're going to notice up here is the addition of the administration. So this is the read-only admin capability. Here I'm going to click on the menu, and I'm going to go to the users list and go ahead and click on the list all here. And you'll notice first that the only thing you can do is view the user information. There's no edit, there is no delete. If I was to go to the issue types, the same thing would be there. I can view the list of the issue types. I can see the expanded list if they happen to be there, but that's about all. I can't make any changes or modifications to any of these areas. Sometimes, again, higher ranking users would like to be able to see the administration side, but not necessarily do you want them to make changes. So this gives you that capability to do that. So it works really well in order to control their access. Also take a look from the home page. Again, you're getting a lot of access here. The ability to submit issue, pretty much still the same though. Subject, full description, priority, severity, and class. If I go ahead and select an issue again, so I'm going to do another test submission. So this will be test 4. And I'll select an issue type again, so we'll pick payroll for this one. You notice it pre-filled the location as Chicago, Illinois. It has a payroll issue, no subtypes in this one, priority set up, and then done. Submit issue. Again, if I go in and add a note, I do get the edit capability. Now, one thing I'll also show you here, if I go back to view, sometimes we need to print this out, and if you do have you do need a printout of one, use the little print icon up here at the right. You click the little icon here, and it'll go ahead and give you a print view. It'll take the menus out so you can actually print the issue. We run into that every once in a while where people want to do that, so it gives you a good way of doing it. So it's right up here, right beside the help files. Now, reports. I haven't talked a lot about reports, but this particular user especially has full access to work and do reports within Issuetrak. For example, they have access to any of the saved searches that have been created and shared with them. They have the ability to use the summary report section within Issuetrak. So we can go in and say, okay, I want to see summary of issues by issue type. I want to take a look at this, and I'm going to use a date range of last year, and I'm going to show a report. So they can run a quick report of all the issues that have been submitted and closed last year and show which one is going to be my heavy hitter for the last year, which would come down here to number 16, human resources. If I want to do the report writer, I have the capability of using the report writer, which means I can go in and build queries within Issuetrak to select data, to actually go ahead and take a look at the reports. So here is a report that I'm creating also. So this is also a reporting option. Now remember, everything that I have showed you today is all from an end user perspective. This is not agent permissions. Everything here is all based off being just a user in Issuetrak and given additional permissions. As you've seen, I've walked them up essentially from one type of permissions to another set of permissions by just expanding the amount of permissions or changing the group memberships if they want to. Because really what I did in here is I created a group A, a group B, and a group C, and a group D, and then I gave the permissions to the users based off the group they belong to. So you may have users in your system, you have managers, you have supervisors that may have groups related to that. Those permissions may be granted to those groups, and then they are going ahead and getting their permissions. The biggest thing to keep in mind, of course, in here, because they are not agent users, they will not be able to be assigned to an issue. The only way to assign an end user to an issue is through the task functionality. So they can be assigned to a task. So for example, if I go back up to the submit issue page and I come down here to the bottom and let's see, let's go back to the issue I just created. So let's go here. Let's go here to test 4. If I needed to assign this issue to someone, I can click on Task Manager and I can add a task. I can come down here to the Assign To, and I can click this little hyperlink here. And this is going to be all the users that I can see that have the ability to be assigned to a task, not an issue, a task. some agents can do that. Users can do this, so I can assign an issue to a user as well as an agent. So down here, user A, user B, the VP of Finance, Manufacturing, whoever it happens to be, or poor old Tony if we really wanted to. So once you do that, then that user gets that email saying they have that particular issue assigned to them as a task. They have this task to complete. They can go ahead and log into the issue. They can then add a note, work the issue. They may not be able to do much more than that, but they are working the issue in tandem with other people. So this is all about this particular user right, which is the workflow items. Okay. Let's see. One of the things now, I wanted to kind of take a few more minutes extra than what I normally do for questions. Usually I try to run about 15 minutes for questions on this particular sessions, but I wanted to open it up a little bit early this time in case there's anything in particular you want to see from a user's perspective, what you can do within the site, for example. So Tony, Paul, is there anything that has come up in the chat that we would like to discuss as a group?
Mike, there was one. Yeah, Mike, there was one that came in on a chat. It had to do with, can non-agents be brought in to the communication stream on an issue ticket using an escalation rule?
If they're on the email distribution list for the escalation rule, yes. They can do it that way.
Could you show me what that would look like, please?
Let me get out of this one and log in. Hold on. Let me log out of this user and get a few more rights. And then in here, let's take a look here. I'm going to log in as the administrator. So let's say on a business rule, and I'm going to go down here to the business rules section, and I'm going to go to an escalation notification. So this would be an example. Let's say here's a help desk item that's come in here. And then what I would like to do is I would like to send an email notification to someone related to this. Now, they don't have to be an agent user because most of this has to do with assignments. Now, so what I'll be using is email distribution list. Now, it could be that I am changing things from changing a priority. There might be an email distribution list related just to the priority, or if I'm changing a substatus, there may be an email distribution list related to the substatus also. But the email distribution list is available to pretty much any user in the site. So when you go in here and add a user to an email distribution list, it doesn't matter if they're an agent or not. It matters that they have an email address mostly. But then you can go ahead and add the user. And when you add the user, then what happens is you'll go ahead and you'll access this issue here. So for example, this principal needs to be notified. Then you make sure that you edit after you've added the user. And when you've done the edit, you make sure they receive email. Also, just take a look here. There's also a mobile component, and this is something that even end users can be resolved. Sometimes your users may want to receive text messages as well as emails. Issuetrak can send a text message out like it sends email notifications. So if you wish to go ahead and receive text message, you would have to provide your phone number and your contact, your text carrier, and then that would have to be added to user profile. And then within Issuetrak, things like this escalation notification or maybe the add notes option within Issuetrak would have to be set up to send text message as well as sending out an email. So that you can do that. So it is another option that you can use. But here's how it works out. You just click the update here, and then that person then would receive an email. If I wanted to include them as a mobile, then I would put mobile in here. Now, if this user, AE Principal, does not have the mobile information in their user profile, they will not receive any text messages. They will just receive the emails. And of course, if they don't have an email profile, they won't receive emails either. But either one will work. But this is a very handy little feature to do this.
and then the functionality comes when you add a note to it. So you can
Correct.
alert
In
them
this
of the
particular case,
condition.
when you add the note would go out with an email distribution list.
Got it.
Because you still have the same type of notification. Now, that's not 100% true, because if you go into the email notification section, the default distributions themselves, this would be covered under escalate. So John Smith, when the issue escalates, gets the email notification. So with the assignee, so with anybody else who's under the on escalate here. The escalation himself will send an email. Okay.
All right, Mike, we had a couple more questions come in through the chat here.
Okay.
Some folks want to know about users being prompted when a note is added, and you're on the right page for that. It happens, right? The actual question, I'll read it right out of chat for us. Are users able to be prompted when a note is added? Also, is there capability to add more notes to add multiple notes at one time? Sorry, I can't read today, obviously. Neither of us can.
Yeah, we're having challenges today.
There we go.
On this particular series, it says that when an individual note is added to Issuetrak, then what happens is, of course, you will say you happen to be the submitter. If you add a note to the issue, then the email will be sent to the assignee, or it could even be sent back to yourself. It depends on the setup of the site. But in general, if either one of the parties that is involved here on this issue, the assignee, the assignee, or the submitter adds a note, the other person will get a copy of it. Also, if you happen to be working through incoming email, let me go back to that little, let me log back out for just a second and go back in as that accountant user for a minute. I wanted to also pick this up too, because this particular one has a reply that's made by incoming email. This note was added by replying to an email from Issuetrak. If you reply back to an email from Issuetrak, then it can add a note to the issue if you're using the incoming email module. So that is an if, though. You have to have that enabled in order to add the note. But it will just take the note. It'll parse out some of the information from that return email and apply that. So but this is directly a direct reply from the email that created this particular issue.
And then the other question, the other part of that was, is there the capability to add multiple notes at one time? Now, Tony tells me my audio is a little shaky, so if you could repeat that for everybody. I think yours is a little stronger.
Okay. The other part of this is adding multiple notes at one time. Unfortunately, it's designed as being one note per entry. You can add as many notes as you wish, but you do have to click Add Note, Update, Add Note, Update. If you wanted to, though, and what I probably would do is I would just go in and add a note, put a section, just put a little space in it and add a second note, or put a little header and there was a second note, and just cover it under one. It could be multiple updates. A lot of times people copy-paste things in here, and I do it all the time, and you copy-paste a note in here. A word about copy-paste, sometimes you want to be a little bit careful about your pasting from Word or some of the other programs. HTML email sometimes can cause problems, so you want to make sure that you're trying to strip out as much of the HTML out as possible. So that sometimes you'll even copy it into Notepad or WordPad and then paste it back into Notes, just because it has a lot of HTML, or if you think it might have it. That's one of the things you want to be aware of. I've had some customers lately that actually were typing in notes that contained Excel spreadsheet inserts. Oh. And what they end up having, that's a whole lot of copying. And sometimes it shows up really well in Issuetrak, and sometimes it doesn't. So just have to be a little bit careful when you're dealing with things with heavy HTML.
All right, Mike, are you ready for another one?
Yep, I got another one. What you got?
All right. Well, somebody has asked us to show them how to create a new ticket directly from email.
Okay. I can do that. All right. let me go in here and open up my email. So here we go. If I can get the right shortcut here. So here I'm opening up my email box. And of course, I am going to go ahead and compose a new email. Forget about my wife calling me stuff. It's trying to load something. Now, in this particular case, the email I am working with is itttraining@myissuetrak.com. And I am going to say, so here we go. We're looking for a new printer. And I hit send. Now, all I have to have is an email address. The system goes ahead and it goes ahead and takes care of it. Now, so in this particular case, we have worked with the site. So the email has been sent out. You can see it's been sent right here. Now on this side, I've got to let it work for just a minute or two. I'm going to log back out. And I'm going to log back in as my MikeWright user. If I can find my name. There we go. So I'm logging back in as a system administrator for this site. The reason is what I want you to do is take a look at where things are done. In here, there is an incoming email mailbox that's been set up, and that mailbox is set to receive the email. So what happens is the address that I'm sending to is this address. Now, what happens at that particular point is it goes in here and is read in as a new email. And it's created issue here, 1317. So on my side, on my email side here, I should expect an email notification to come to me, hopefully in a minute or two, which it just did. This is the reply email that automatically is sent back to me, confirming that I have sent that in. So here's 1317. You saw it was read in our mailbox. This is the reply email that's been sent at. So here it is right here. And then in this one, you see CS training right there. So let's pop this up a little bit. Let's give it a little bit extra here so you can see a little bit better. So this is the format. Now, these formats of the emails coming back to you is configurable in some respects by the administrators in the site. The thing that's important to me is the reply note and the clickable link, because now this is going to take me directly into Issuetrak here, and then it's going to log me in as the MikeWright user here, and then it's going to go ahead and show me new printer request right there. Now, if I add a note here, I can add the note at this point. And do an update there. Oh, it likes to have a subtype. It's looking for data because of how I've logged in. That's a requirement. It's looking for severity. Someone's turned on a lot of requests in here, so that's been taken care of there, and a required by date. What in the world did I send in? Now, the reason it's making all of those requirements is because the hardware issue type has a custom screen associated with it that has a lot of requirements in here. Because I am logging in as an administrator or someone who has access to edit this information, it's making me put in requirements. Sometimes that is going to be the case. Now, when I added that note, I'll go back up here, and then in a moment or two, an email again will be sent to me that says that note's been added to the issue. If I want to add a reply, then all I have to do is hit reply here. And the important part of this is actually right here. This portion of the subject line points the email to the right issue. If you change that, then it'll add a brand new issue instead. So here I just want to add a note. And send that back. That'll be picked up by the incoming email, and a note will be added to that particular issue. That's how you can have a response and reply, really, without a user even logging into the site. And we have some customers who work that way.
All right.
Got something else, sir?
We're coming up on about 3 minutes till our next session, but really quickly, if we could speak really quickly to it, we had a question about assigning or changing information in the email from the original email, or setting fields in that issue from the original email. And I thought you could spend 30 seconds or so talking about email tokens.
There is a capability within Issuetrak to have what's called an email token. There's a token area within Issuetrak that we set up, and this is individual for every particular customer. But it does have the capability of having an assignment token added in an Issuetrak so that you can change an assignment to an issue. You can go ahead and change a priority for or set a priority, and even set a substatus. So these tokens, once you're made aware of them, can be used to update data directly just by putting them into the body of the email. There, you see here, there's some others in here. Also, in addition to that, there is some ability to do that with user-defined fields also. So the tokens, you have to go ahead and get the tokens from your administrator, and then you can add them to the emails in order to update data if you need to. Okay? All right, then, since we've only got a couple minutes before we're going to pick up on our next session, we want to go ahead and kind of stop right here. We'll come back and everybody kind of take a quick break, and then we'll pick right back up here at 2 o'clock. So we'll talk to you in just a couple of moments. And thank you for attending our first session.